When your girlfriend crashes your car, you expect panic. When she says her ex was driving, you expect rage. But me, I felt nothing, just a cold, steady silence. Because deep down, I already knew something was wrong long before that text ever came. Hey everyone, I'm Ethan, 29 years old, just an ordinary guy who thought he had an ordinary relationship. For a year and a half, my girlfriend Madison and I were that couple everyone envied. The matching coffee mugs, late night movies, weekend drives in my truck. The kind of love story that makes you believe trust actually means something. At least that's what I thought. Before I start, if you love real-life revenge stories that end with justice served cold, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this one starts with a single message that flipped my entire world upside down. It was a Tuesday night, one of those quiet ones where you're just winding down for bed, scrolling your phone, half asleep. Then my screen lit up with a notification from Madison. Baby, please don't freak out. I crashed your truck. I'm okay. My heart dropped. I blinked twice, read it again. Crashed? My truck? Before I could type anything back, another message came through. Don't be mad. My ex was driving. We were just catching up. For a few seconds, I just stared at the words. My ex was driving. It was like my brain couldn't process the sentence. I'd heard of people cheating, lying, even manipulating. But who hands their boyfriend's truck to their ex and crashes it? I felt my jaw tighten, heartbeat slowing instead of racing. That's how I knew. I wasn't shocked. I was just done. Because somewhere deep down, I'd been waiting for this. The late replies, the girl's nights that ended at 2 a.m., the way her phone always faced down. This wasn't new. It was just confirmed. Still, I typed back calmly, is everyone safe? Her reply came fast, yes, we're fine. Cops are here. It's just some body damage. I'll explain everything when I get home. I stared at the message. My 2021 Tacoma, the truck I had paid off early, maintained like a baby, now wrecked, driven by some guy she once called toxic. But even as anger built up, something colder took over. I remembered something my dad once told me. Son, never react in anger. Revenge tastes better when it's served with paperwork. And right there at 11:47 p.m., I made a decision not to yell, not to cry, not to confront her. Instead, I opened my contacts, scrolled down to Insurance 24/7's line, and pressed call. Because if her ex wanted to play grown-up with my truck, then he was about to meet the grown-up consequences. The door clicked open around 1 a.m. I didn't even turn my head from the couch. I just heard her soft footsteps and that faint scent of her perfume drifting through the apartment. Madison's voice trembled as she spoke. Baby, I'm so sorry. Are you mad? I looked up slowly. Her face was pale, mascara smudged, her hands shaking as she held her phone like it could save her. She looked scared, not of the crash, but of me. And maybe she should have been, not because I'd ever hurt her, but because she had no idea what kind of storm she'd just started. I stood up, kept my voice calm. You okay? Yeah, she nodded quickly. I'm fine. It's just... Ooh, such a mess. Derek offered to drive back because I had this terrible headache and I held up my hand. Wait, Derek? Her lips pressed together. Yeah. I ran into him at a coffee shop earlier. It wasn't planned, I swear. We just talked for a bit. It was nothing. Nothing. That word hung in the air like smoke. She kept talking, hands waving nervously as she tried to explain. Then he offered to drive me home since I wasn't feeling great, and he's just not used to trucks, you know? He misjudged a turn and crashed it, I finished for her. She blinked. It was an accident, Ethan. Please don't make this a big thing. The insurance will handle it. I just stared at her. My mind playing the entire scene she wasn't describing, her sitting next to him, laughing, trusting him behind my wheel, lying about it until metal met concrete. But I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even curse. I just said, glad you're safe. Her eyes flickered, confused. And that's it? Yeah, I said quietly, that's it. She tried to smile like she thought she'd gotten away with it. Like her sweet tone could patch a lie. She leaned closer, her hand touching my arm. You're the best, you know that? I was so scared you'd be mad. I forced a small smile. Don't worry, Madison. Everything's going to get handled. She exhaled, relief washing over her face, and walked past me toward the bedroom. Her phone buzzed in her hand. I caught a glimpse of the screen. Derek, did you tell him? My jaw clenched, but I said nothing. She disappeared behind the door, probably thinking I was too calm to care. But in reality, I was already planning. Because lies don't just break trust, they build evidence. And by morning, I'd make sure every one of hers was documented, recorded, and ready to burn her perfect little facade to the ground. When she finally whispered good night from the other room, I whispered something back too softly for her to hear. Yeah, good night, Madison. Enjoy it while it lasts. She tried to keep the morning normal. Like the world hadn't tilted on its axis at 1 a.m., she kissed my cheek as if nothing had happened. Made a weak joke about needing painkillers for the headache, and then went to the kitchen to warm up leftover soup. Her hands trembled every time her phone buzzed. She tucked it under a dish towel like it was loaded. I let her move. Acting furious would have been the easy show, the cheap scene everyone expects in a breakup story. I wanted something better. Patience that looked like indifference and indifference that was actually strategy. Do you want me to drive you to work? I asked, casual, hiding the itch to examine every word she'd sent last night. No. No, she said, popping her head around the counter. I'm fine. I'll take the bus. Thanks, babe. She smiled, and the smile tried to sell me back the version of Madison I wanted to believe. After she left, I didn't chase her. Instead, at the kitchen table, opened my laptop and pulled up everything I could think of: receipts, bank notifications, the truck's Bluetooth history, messages I'd backed up automatically. The phone call to the insurance line last night wasn't just a reflex. It was the seed of a plan. The agent's words were still ringing in my head. Unauthorized driver equals personal liability. It was simple math, and I liked numbers. A dull notification popped up. A message from a number I didn't recognize. It read, Derek, are you okay? Text me when you can. The timestamp was 2 hours before Madison's crash text. I felt a small, hard thing bite in my ribs. The timing didn't add up. I opened Madison's shared calendar. A stupid move. Yes, but we'd shared it months ago so we could plan dinners and dentist appointments. There was an empty slot labeled coffee at 4 p.m., nothing more. No mention of Derek, no meeting notes. That could be innocent. It could also be a cover. Then I checked the truck's Bluetooth history, a list of previously connected devices. There it was, an unfamiliar device name, Derek's iPhone, connected at 4:12 p.m. I took a breath. The facts were stacking in a line that didn't look accidental. I didn't want to be the guy who stormed into a conversation waving evidence like a baton. I wanted the evidence to speak for itself. So I did something people rarely think to do in the heat of betrayal. I wrote everything down: time, message contents. The exact phrasing of Madison's text. The agent's name at the insurance company. The Bluetooth connection timestamp. Facts, neat and unemotional. Mid-morning, Madison called. She sounded more composed than she had at 1 a.m., practiced even. Hey, she said. Everything's okay. The cops wrote it up as minor. Derek's apologetic said he messed up. Look, Ethan, I know you'll do what you think is right, but can we just handle this quietly? He can't afford big legal trouble. Please don't destroy his life. Her voice had that pleading quality it always did when she wanted me to be softer. I heard regret under the words, but not full remorse. There was a protectiveness when she said Derek's name thin. Instinctive. I already called the insurance company last night, I replied flatly. They said the driver wasn't authorized. They also mentioned liability. The ball's rolling. There was a sharp intake of breath through the phone. You did what? I did what any sane person would do, I said. I protected my property. She tried to guilt me. You're being cruel, you don't understand, but my notes were filling a page, rational and cold. As she spoke, I noticed something odd on my laptop, a notification that Madison's cloud backup had been recently accessed, and suspiciously, a chat thread titled simply Derek showed as having been deleted. My finger hovered over the mouse. Deleting things isn't just hiding evidence, it's an admission someone has something to hide. I closed the laptop and looked at my reflection in the dark screen. Calm, measured, watchful. The storm had not yet arrived, but I could see the first black clouds lining up. I made one more call to the insurance agent to confirm my report was logged. The agent's voice was procedural and efficient. "We'll need the police report and all details," she said. "If the driver wasn't authorized, liability rests with him." That sentence landed like a bell. Liability rests with him. When Madison came home that night, she would find me different, not raging, not begging, just unassumingly prepared. And when she did, she wouldn't like what she saw. When she walked through the door that evening, the air between us was brittle. She set her purse on the table like she was afraid it might explode. "Ethan," she said softly, "we need to talk about what happened." I nodded toward the couch. "Sure, sit." She perched at the edge, legs crossed, hands fidgeting. "I called the insurance company today. They said the claim has already been opened." "By you?" "Correct," I said. "I called them last night." Her eyes widened. "Why would you do that without talking to me first?" "Because the car isn't yours, Madison. It's mine. And because the person driving wasn't authorized. The insurance company needs facts, not feelings." She inhaled sharply. "Derek didn't mean to crash it. He was helping me." "You're really going to let him get sued?" "He doesn't have that kind of money." Her voice cracked halfway through the sentence, but I stayed still. The colder I became, the more she unraveled. "That's not my problem," I said. "He drove without my permission. He can deal with the consequences." Her jaw tightened. "You're doing this to punish me." "No," I said. "I'm doing this to protect myself. You lied about where you were, let your ex drive my truck, and now you want me to commit insurance fraud to save him. Think about that." For a moment, the only sound in the room was the hum of the refrigerator. Then she whispered, "You're not the man I thought you were." I almost laughed. "No, Madison. I'm exactly the man you thought you could lie to." She stood up, pacing. "You're overreacting. You always overthink things." "It was one mistake." "One mistake?" I repeated slowly. "Right, and he's paying for it." Her face hardened. "If you don't fix this, I'll make sure you regret it." That line didn't hit like a threat, it sounded desperate. But I didn't blink. "You already did," I said. She stormed off to the bedroom and slammed the door. I sat there for a long time, staring at the closed door, the faint scent of her perfume still in the air. Then I picked up my phone and called the insurance company again, making sure everything was in writing. The agent recognized my voice. "Mr. Cole, just confirming you're reporting the driver as unauthorized, correct?" "Yes," I said. "Make sure that's documented." "Understood." "Once we process the report, the driver will receive the liability notice directly." "Good," I replied. That's all I needed. When I hung up, I opened a blank document on my laptop and started typing dates, times, screenshots, texts. I added everything. The more she lied, the more I collected in court or in chaos. Paperwork always wins. Later that night, she came out quietly, pretending nothing had happened. She brought me tea, sat beside me, even tried to rest her head on my shoulder. "Let's not fight anymore," she murmured. "I hate when we're like this." I didn't move. "We're not fighting," I said. "We're just waiting for the consequences to arrive." She looked at me, confused, because she still thought the storm could be talked away. But it was already here. It just hadn't struck her yet, and when it did, I promised myself I'd still be sitting calmly watching everything fall exactly where it should. The next morning, the world outside our apartment felt the same. Mailman, garbage truck, distant dog barking. Inside, everything had already shifted. I woke up to a string of missed calls and a notification from my insurance portal. A letter had been generated and mailed to the driver on file, Derek. It was short, formal and brutal in its clarity. Liability notice, estimated damages, and a request to respond. Numbers were attached to words: $38,000 market value, $1,800 rental costs, $30,200 diminished value. Total $43,000. I read it twice. Then I read it again. That afternoon, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. The text read, "Derek, look man, I can't afford this. Please, drop it." The tone was almost pleading. I didn't reply. Then came calls from people who thought they could help her fix it. friends, coworkers, and finally her mother. Denise's voice on the other end was syrup-sweet and furious, a strange combination. "You need to fix this right now," she said. "My daughter did not mean for this to happen. He'll never recover financially. You can't ruin him over a fender bender." "Denise," I said, careful, "I'm not trying to ruin anyone." I reported the facts. The driver was unauthorized. That's how insurance law works. "There are always other ways," she hissed. "You're making a choice to destroy a boy's life. Think about what you're doing." Her voice wavered toward tears, then hardened. "If you don't drop this, Madison will leave you." A cold little laugh escaped me. "Let me be clear. This isn't about revenge for its own sake. It's a consequence of choices made." He made the choice to drive without permission. "Ethan, you're being cruel," she said. "You don't know what this will do to our family." Her call was the beginning of a storm. Within the hour, Madison's dad, Robert, called too. He was quieter, more tactically aggressive than his wife. "Listen," he said, "we understand you're upset, but you could make this go away with one phone call. We have people who can help. This is getting out of hand." I felt the script shifting, emotional blackmail dressed up as parental concern. "Mr. Carter," I said, "I'm not the one who needs help here. The police report is clear. The truck is titled and registered in my name. The texts show there was no permission." "You don't understand family," he said. "You don't want this escalating. Think about your job, your reputation." He left the threat dangling like a knife. After the calls, the apartment filled with a different kind of noise. Whispers from neighbors, murmured sympathies from people who didn't have the full picture. Madison oscillated between contrite and furious. She begged, pleaded, and then screamed. "You're destroying my life," she shouted one night, crouched on the floor with her hands in her hair. "He didn't mean it. Derek is my past. If you keep this up, everyone will think I'm horrible. You'll wreck me." I sat on the armchair, hands folded, and met her pleas with the same calm I'd cultivated. "You made decisions," I said. "You put someone else in my vehicle. You lied about it. Those are your choices." That night, Derek's messages started coming in again, this time angrier. "You're killing me," he typed. "You don't even know what I'm going through. My parents will disown me." There was an ugly mix of bravado and panic under his words. Madison's family began to mobilize on social media. 2. Vague posts and sympathetic comments painting me as an unreasonable boyfriend out for revenge. Mutual friends texted, confused, asking for my side. I sent screenshots and documents to a few I trusted. Most were silent at first. Some offered weak support, and a small group leapt to her defense. It was the first real taste of the collateral damage that comes with turning private pain into public consequences. People chose sides. Narratives were being written without context. But the facts remained immutable on my screen. Times, texts, the insurance letter. When Madison finally stopped pacing and sat across from me, her face drained, she leaned in and whispered, almost pleadingly, "What do you want me to say to make this stop?" I met her eyes and said only what I'd been saying since the night of the text. "Tell the truth." She flinched as if struck. Instead of answering, she reached for her phone and dialed someone. I watched her face change, embarrassment, fear, calculation, and then she turned to me with a look I hadn't seen before, raw panic. The doorbell rang. Madison opened the door, her hand still trembling around her phone. Behind her stood Derek, the same Derek, whose name now appeared on a liability notice worth $43,000. He looked smaller than I expected, his confidence stripped down to apology. "Hey man," he started, voice shaky. "We need to talk." I didn't move from my chair. "There's nothing to talk about." Madison rushed in between us, desperate to smooth the tension. "Ethan, please. He just wants to explain." "Explain what?" I cut in. "How he took the keys to my truck without permission. How you lied about running errands. Or how you're both shocked there are consequences." She flinched. Derek's face twitched with frustration. "I'm trying to make this right. I wasn't even speeding." "Then you can tell that to the insurance lawyers," I said flatly. "They'll be thrilled to hear your side." Madison's voice cracked. "You can't just let them ruin him." "I'm not letting anyone ruin him." I reported facts. Facts ruin liars all by themselves. The silence that followed was suffocating. Derek muttered something under his breath, maybe a curse, maybe a plea. I didn't care enough to decipher it. I pointed to the door. Leave, now. He hesitated, looked at Madison like he expected her to defend him. She did, of course she did. He's my friend, Ethan. I laughed once, not out of humor, but disbelief. Then you can move in together and discuss friendship payments when the lawsuit hits. Derek stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture frame rattled off the wall. Madison turned toward me, eyes full of tears that couldn't find sympathy. You didn't have to humiliate him like that. I leaned back, calm as ever. No, Madison. I just reminded him and you that actions have price tags. That night she didn't speak to me. She slept facing the wall, scrolling her phone under the blanket while pretending not to cry. I heard her whisper Derek's name once. My chest tightened, not with heartbreak, but with exhaustion. By morning, the social media war had started. Madison's sister Ashley posted, "Some people claim to love you, then destroy innocent lives out of jealousy." The comments poured in, sympathy for Madison, anger for me. A few of our mutual friends texted, "Bro, what happened?" I didn't reply. Screenshots speak louder than words, and I had plenty. That day, Madison tried a new tactic. She came home with takeout from my favorite Thai place, dressed in the same blue sundress I once said made her look like summer. "Let's talk," she said, voice soft, almost hopeful. She put the food on the table, sat across from me. "You're right, I messed up," she began. I shouldn't have lied. But destroying Derek financially isn't going to fix anything between us. I let her finish, watching her eyes search for pity. "You're right," I said. "It won't fix us. Because there is no us anymore." She blinked, tears instantly spilling. "What? You lied, Madison. You let your ex drive my truck. You hid it. You defended him. And now, when everything's catching up to you, you're worried about him, not me." She shook her head, voice breaking. "You're ending this over a car?" "No," I said quietly, standing up. "Over your choices." The pad thai sat untouched between us as I walked away, her sobs trailing behind me like the echo of everything that had already died between us. That night I slept on the couch again, not out of guilt, but out of clarity. For the first time in weeks, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt like peace sharpening into purpose. And in that silence, I made my next decision. Madison wasn't leaving on her terms anymore. She'd be leaving on mine. The next few days turned into quiet warfare. Madison didn't move out like I expected. She dug in as if stubbornness could reverse time. Every morning she slammed doors a little harder, left dishes in the sink a little longer, and played music just loud enough to be irritating. She wasn't ready to leave. She wanted to punish me first. At first, I ignored it. Silence can be more powerful than anger. But by the end of the week, she escalated. On Tuesday, she accidentally clogged the bathroom sink with makeup wipes. Wednesday, she left candles burning in the living room while she went out. Thursday night, she had a 2 a.m. girls' night. Loud music, cheap wine, laughter that felt like mockery. Every act said the same thing. You might win the argument, but I'll make you miserable doing it. I started locking my office door and keeping my documents, insurance copies, chat screenshots, photos of the wreck in a separate drawer. If she wanted a war, she'd find out I fought mine with evidence, not emotion. Friday evening, things shifted again. I came home to find her sitting calmly on the couch, scrolling her phone. She looked too calm. "Your insurance company called," she said. "They said Derek's officially been notified about the lawsuit. He's freaking out. He says his lawyer thinks you're doing this out of spite." Her tone was sharp, like she wanted me to bite. "I'm doing it because the law says he's responsible," I said evenly. She scoffed. "The law doesn't make you act like a robot, Ethan. You could end this." "I could," I agreed. "But I won't." She stood abruptly, her eyes narrowing. "You're heartless." "I'm consistent," I said. "There's a difference." That's when her phone buzzed. She looked at it, hesitated, and then tucked it away. But I saw the name on the screen. "Derek, is he coming over?" I asked, my voice calm but cold. She didn't answer. I went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and turned back toward her. "I'll tell you this once, Madison. If he steps foot in this apartment, I'll have the cops remove him. He's trespassing. Don't test me. She glared at me. You can't control who I see. You can see whoever you want, I said. Just not under my roof. That night, the apartment felt colder than ever. She stayed in the bedroom, and I stayed on the couch, listening to the faint hum of her TV through the wall. I thought that would be the end of it. Quiet hostility until she moved out. I was wrong. Saturday, I came home late from work and immediately felt it, the strange tension in the air, the scent of takeout food that wasn't mine. I walked into the living room and stopped. Derek was sitting on my couch, eating my leftovers, holding a beer from my fridge. He looked up, startled, but tried to play it off. Hey man, we need to talk about the insurance thing. Madison rushed from the hallway, her face pale. Ethan, please, just let him. Get out, I said quietly. Come on, Derek started. We can sort this out like adults. I pulled my phone from my pocket. You have 30 seconds before I call the police for trespassing. His fake calm cracked. Are you serious? Completely. Madison stepped between us, shouting, He has a right to be here. No, I said, staring straight at her. He has a right to pay for what he did. Not to sit on my couch. I started dialing. Derek muttered a curse and stormed past me, slamming the door on his way out. Madison turned on me, trembling with anger. You're pathetic. You think you're in control, but you're just bitter and alone. I slipped my phone into my pocket, still calm. Maybe, but at least I'm not stupid enough to invite a lawsuit into my house. She didn't speak again that night, but the next morning, she made it clear, if she couldn't win with guilt or pity, she'd try destruction instead. Every word, every action became a landmine, and I was walking through my own home like an intruder in a war zone I never asked for. She wasn't just my ex anymore. She was my enemy. Sunday morning arrived heavy, like the air itself was warning me to stay alert. Madison had gone silent. Not peaceful, but plotting. I could feel it in the way she avoided eye contact, the way she smiled too politely while making coffee she didn't drink. Silence was never her style. It meant something was brewing. I spent most of the day cleaning and organizing my things. Half my drawers were already empty, not because I was leaving, but because I didn't trust her not to mess with what mattered. At 4 p.m., my phone buzzed with an email from the insurance company confirming Derek's official liability claim. They had sent him the full estimate, $43,000. Attached was a note, unauthorized driver confirmed. Proceeding with collection. I leaned back in my chair, reading it twice. Justice had begun to move quietly, slow but inevitable. When Madison came home that evening, she didn't ask about dinner or the weather. She slammed her purse on the table and hissed, You got him sued. You actually did it. I didn't look up from my laptop. I didn't sue anyone. The insurance company did. She stepped closer. Stop hiding behind your calm act. You could have called them back. You want him destroyed because you're jealous. Finally, I looked at her, really looked at her. Madison, you lied. You let him drive my truck. You crashed it, and now you're shocked that actions have consequences? She froze, her eyes wet and angry. You'll regret this, she whispered. I stood slowly, voice even. You've said that before. Still waiting. She turned away, grabbed her phone, and disappeared into the bedroom. The door clicked shut, followed by the faint murmur of her voice on a call. I couldn't hear the words, but I didn't need to. I already knew who she was talking to. An hour later, the doorbell rang. Standing outside were her parents, again, Denise furious. Robert trying to look calm but shaking with anger. I didn't even invite them in. This isn't a good time, I said flatly. Robert shoved the door open with his shoulder. We'll make it one. Denise's voice rose immediately. How dare you drag our daughter into this mess? You're ruining her. Her? I asked. She's the one who lied, drove with her ex, and wrecked my property. Robert took a step forward. You think this ends well for you? You can't treat people like this. I'm treating everyone exactly how they deserve, I said. Denise jabbed a finger at me. If you don't drop this insurance nonsense, we'll go to your work. Your boss will hear everything. You'll lose your job. I smiled faintly. Then I'll make sure the police hear about the harassment first. Robert's composure cracked. You're unbelievable. You're just proving you're petty. No, I said. I'm proving that I'm done being manipulated. They didn't expect calm. They came for chaos. But I refused to give it to them. Finally, Denise snapped. Madison's packing her things. You have 48 hours to apologize, or you'll regret this. 48 hours? I echoed. Perfect timing. That's exactly how long she has to move out. The hallway went silent. Madison appeared behind them, eyes wide. You can't just kick me out. I can, I said. Month-to-month lease. You're not on it. You've got 2 days. Robert's voice thundered. You'll pay for this. I stepped closer, voice low and steady. No, sir, you already did. You just don't know it yet. They left, muttering threats that sounded hollow against the closing door. Inside, Madison stood frozen. You think you've won, don't you? I walked past her to the living room. No, Madison. This isn't a win, it's a cleanup. That night, I stayed awake, half expecting more drama. A tantrum, a scream, a broken glass. But the only sound was the faint tapping of her keyboard behind the closed door. When I woke up the next morning, my phone buzzed with a new voicemail from my boss. Ethan, we need to talk about a call we received this morning. Someone made some serious claims about you. I exhaled slowly. So this was her next move. The line had been crossed. And now she'd find out I was just as ready to fight dirty, only I'd do it clean. The voicemail from my boss had been the first strike, a predictable, cowardly attempt to weaponize my job. I walked into his office with the same folder I'd been building for weeks. Police report, insurance correspondence, timestamps, screenshots, and a neat chronology of events. He opened the file, skimmed, then met my eyes. I'm sorry you had to deal with that, he said. We called HR, and they investigated. Nothing here shows you as anything other than a victim of harassment. Take the day if you need it. Relief tasted stranger than I expected. It wasn't triumph, just the settling of a debt collected by truth. I left with my head a little lighter, knowing the manufactured narrative was faltering. The real pressure, though, was outside the office, the slow, economic squeeze that follows verified liability. The insurance company didn't move emotionally. They moved methodically. Weeks of paperwork, letters, and legal notices culminated in a single, cold sentence from their collections team. Derek was responsible for $52,000. The additional figure reflected one ugly detail: his parents lawyer eventually found a prior license suspension he'd never disclosed. That revelation pushed the liability higher and stripped his claim of credibility. Derek called me twice that same week. The first was pleading, weak and embarrassed. I'll figure something out, he whispered. Please don't ruin me. I listened to him like a man hearing someone else's funeral bell. The second call was shorter. Lawyers tend to start making calls when panic turns to paperwork. Madison's social support had already begun to collapse. Small fractures that were invisible in the heat of the fight widened into gaping breaks when friends realized. They were being asked to choose between a story and verifiable evidence. A few tried to mediate at first, but when I forwarded the insurance letter and the police report to mutual friends who asked for proof, the chorus of support thinned. People don't like to be lied to, especially when the lies paint them as allies of something ugly. Her family's last theatrics fizzled when Derek's parents, faced with the same documentation, no longer blamed me. They apologized in a small, quiet phone call, embarrassed, defeated. Their words were simple. We didn't know. The apology carried the weight of consequences. Derek started receiving aggressive collection notices. His bank accounts were frozen while attorneys argued over settlements. He tried to set up payment plans, but the numbers were too large, and the goodwill too small. Madison, meanwhile, turned inward. The townhouse she'd been proud of suddenly felt like glass. Every friend she'd leaned on now asked awkwardly for context. Her sister's social posts, once a shield, became a mirror reflecting the truth. The Instagram sympathy post dwindled. The group text that had buzzed with diversion strategies evaporated as people realized there was no good cover for what had happened. One night, she left a note on the kitchen counter. I found it after work. A ripped piece of paper with messy handwriting. You'll regret this. Karma will find you. Around the note were a few scattered items, a faded Polaroid, a receipt for a cheap motel, and the key to the storage unit she'd mismanaged for weeks. She hadn't left yet. Instead, she'd gathered the performance of departure and the posturing of damage. But something had shifted fundamentally. The engine of pity that had powered her early defenses stalled. People were tired of defending the indefensible. A week later, Derek filed for bankruptcy. The official filing arrived like a punctuation mark on a sentence I'd already finished writing. The court records were clinical. They confirmed what everyone had suspected: an inability to satisfy a liability born of poor choices. The news hit Madison hard. Without Derek's shaky support, she had no footing left. On the day she finally packed, she moved like someone leaving a stage after the crowd went silent. She left the note I'd found and, in the mailbox, a terse email to me. "I hope you're happy. You destroyed us." I replied once simply, "You did that yourself." As the U-Haul pulled away, I felt an unexpected emptiness. This wasn't gloating. It was the aftertaste of something that had to be done. The last blow had landed and the echoes were still settling. A month later, the dust had finally settled. No more calls, no more threats, no more fake apologies. Just peace, quiet, clean, earned peace. Madison was gone. The apartment felt bigger without her noise, brighter without her chaos. I'd repainted the living room, replaced the broken photo frames, and rearranged the furniture, not because I needed change, but because I needed my space back. The couch, once the battlefield of our silence, became the spot where I finally learned how silence could feel like freedom instead of tension. Derek's story, on the other hand, ended where it began, in wreckage. The insurance case had closed, $52,000 in liability, unpaid. He filed for bankruptcy, his credit ruined before he even turned 30. The guy who once bragged about always landing on his feet was now working double shifts trying to rebuild what he'd casually destroyed. Karma doesn't make announcements. It just arrives right on schedule. Madison's fall was quieter, slower, sadder. Her friends stopped defending her when screenshots and police reports started circulating. She bounced between couches, first Ashley's, then Brittany's, until even they'd had enough. The last I heard, she'd moved back with her parents in another state. She posted a cryptic story on Instagram, a black background, white text. Starting fresh, leaving toxic people behind. The comments were merciless. Everyone knew who she meant, and everyone knew the truth. 2 weeks later, I got a message. Request on Facebook from someone unexpected, Madison's grandmother. Her words were simple, warm, and heavy with honesty. "Young man, I heard what my granddaughter did. I'm ashamed of her and proud of you. She needed to learn that actions have consequences. Thank you for teaching her a lesson the easy way wouldn't have." That message meant more than any apology could. It wasn't revenge anymore, it was closure. I took a slow breath, glanced out the window at my new 2023 Tacoma, same color, same model, but cleaner. A symbol, not of replacement, but of renewal. My insurance had covered every cent, and even sent a follow-up survey asking how satisfied I was with their service. I gave them 5 stars. Under comments I wrote, "They turned my ex's lies into legal lessons. 10/10 would insure again." The agent who called to confirm actually laughed. It felt good to laugh too. I'd spent months in cold calculation, but now warmth was slowly finding its way back in. Sometimes revenge doesn't need fire or fury. Sometimes it just needs patience and the right paperwork. I learned that forgiveness isn't about letting people back in. It's about letting yourself move on, even while they drown in the mess they created. And as I stood in my quiet apartment, sun cutting through the curtains, I realized something. She was right about one thing: karma did find us. It just knew exactly which address to visit first. And that's how it all ended, not with shouting, not with chaos, but with silence that finally made sense. Madison lost everything she gambled with, and I gained something I didn't know I'd been missing. If there's one thing this story taught me, it's this. Never let someone convince you that staying calm means you're weak. Sometimes silence is the loudest answer, and patience is the most painful revenge. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life revenge stories just like this one. Stories.